Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Le Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously.
Girls and boys.
Good afternoon.
Sir.
We start already. So no wine competition today. So no scoring, which is very good for our friend Camp because no cheat. And mainly because Keys Wines have had a bit of a dilemma. Jessie actually is letting her dog go today, and she's part of the winemakers who sponsored the wines for us. So we decided maybe out of respect to push it back 2 weeks. So we'll all be drinking Keys wines in 2 weeks. Anyway, just before we start, I'm gonna see whether you guys can really see this. But I thought I want to share with you something that we are going to do now each week is to have that sip and score.
It's bullshit.
And allow our audience to have a look at the progress of this scoreboard and see how we're going so far on the from our Jeff. Our Jeff has told us as of last week that he thinks that Donald Trump is very, very low in his score, and that on equal par is Cam. But since he's the president, Donald Trump, and Cam is a nobody, Cam is really last, and Donald Trump, for the first time in his life, is only second last.
This is my problem with Jeff, right? So he's got Donald Trump, the man who brokered peace in Afghanistan, and myself, the man who brought it to light below, a blithering idiot who can't stay awake for longer than 5 minutes and is dragging his country and has ruined Afghanistan down the toilet. Jeff, I don't know where you're getting your information or your values from, mate, but it's highly questionable. Highly questionable.
We don't need to be questioning Jeff. He's so far, he's actually only wanted to give Joe Biden a 7 out of 10. I think he's been very generous.
7's a cop out. It's got to be a 6 or an 8.
No. I think personally, I would say that if it is possible, maybe for him to revise it.
I love the Don.
I don't think that he'll revise Cam anyway, and I think it's okay. That's okay.
I haven't got a score. I don't even have a score.
I don't think that we wanted to hurt your feelings.
We'll just put him down the bottom scoreless. That'll help. Whose idea was it? That TL. Who was it?
Hey?
Charlotte? That'd be Charlotte for sure.
No. That's me.
You're not smart enough to come up with that, mate.
So thanks to Monica, we managed to have it done just about 20 minutes ago, and that's hence she posted it. It looks fantastic, Monica. Love it.
All right, even though we're not competing, what wines did you bring?
I got the old Scarborough, the Obsessive Chardonnay. I think if you ever have the time, after they bring down the Berlin Wall, to go to the Hunter Valley and try this wine, this house is just amazing. All right?
Yeah, to East Germany, it's a cracking spot. I actually... Just on that, because I know Scarborough a bit, I actually prefer the normal Shardy, Thomas, over the Obsessive range. A bit too oaky for me, a bit too...
Oh, no, I love it oaky. I love it when it's with that nice seafood.
No, I want butter, not wood.
No, this one's got butter and wood. What about yours? What did you have?
I have got from Tasmania. You see that?
A Pinot Noir? No.
Oh, go that way.
Yeah.
It's a Devils Corner Resolution Chardonnay from Tasmania, 2017.
Yeah.
We know about 2017. It was one of the best years for wine in recent memory. I don't know if that, I know that's true of the Hunter Valley and certain areas of South Australia, but I don't know if it's true of Tasmania. So we'll find out. And even though we weren't competing, I tripped over it and accidentally ran into a 4 on Vivino, just saying. So, just saying.
What about you, mate? What do you have in today?
I brought a Tamburlaine. It's a sweet one. It's called Sweet Pheobe.
Oh, yeah.
course. So yeah, just a white for today. It was a bit
What year? Where is it from?
You love your cordial, don't you?
Well, it's better than passion pop. I actually don't know what year it's from.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. What about you, Chris?
Must be good.
I got one straight out of the garage. It's a
Amazing how Thomas calls off the competition, so no one went to any effort whatsoever except for me.
Hey, I'm sorry, mate. Scarborough White Label, that is big effort, all right?
You had to walk to your bloody wine cellar. I've been to your house. I know where the Scarborough's kept.
Well, it's still a big effort, okay?
Anyway, it's a Spanish red, Saint Simon from Castillo.
Can you pronounce that again, mate, please?
Yeah, read the frickin' label. There you go.
Okay, so what's news? What's good this week? What's good?
Well, the real question...
Joe Rogan, your hero, got COVID.
He got COVID, and he used every banned pharmaceutical known to man that the whole world says doesn't work, and he was over it in 3 days. That's news.
A man who's not scared of COVID, the moment he found out he got it, actually isolated himself from his family, his kid, his wife, right? Hey, otherwise I'm not scared.
He's not scared of it because he just got paid $100 million and he knows he can pay for any treatment he wants. That's all right. That's okay. I think the interesting thing is he's been talking about a lot about in America, ivermectin, and they've actually banned it as being used or trying to ban it because it's not you can buy it for $2 over the counter. It's a lot cheaper than a vaccine, but it's been shown clinically to actually work. And there's a big fight over there at the moment about why the government's stopping people using it and why they're stopping doctors prescribing it. So that was interesting. Guy with his following to come out and saying that's what he filled himself up with, along with a lot of other stuff, was strong. I think the whole world really wants to know whether I got dinner last week after last week's episode.
The whole world couldn't give a shit, really, personally.
I can
say whatever you like now, but
I can happily report that after an initial protest from my lovely wife, she realised what her job was and got back in the kitchen and cooked me up a nice food.
You're a brave man, Wilson. You're a brave man.
No, he's not brave. Brave is someone who knows what they're doing. He's stupid. Listen, mate, are you going to learn, bro? She will never forget, and that will come out in 50 years. You're an idiot. Actually, that's your last 50 years around her. But it come out.
I congratulate her. She remembered what she was meant to be doing.
Well done. Pass. Listen, I'm not going to be witness to the death of my mate's relationship, right? Let's get on to some different subject. Now, freaking different subject. All right. Today, 488 cases and 7 deaths. What about at work? How are people going at work?
Well, it's the longer this goes on.
Let me rephrase it. Week in, week out, our employees who are waiting for things to ease, they're going to work week after week. And week after week, for them, it's the same thing. It's actually maybe harder for the moment, even than last week, because they're restricting a lot of things. But they see the case going up. I mean, what are they thinking? At least, if they could see the case going down, they can see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. But
one of the things that I think, so as far as work's going, you can see that the longer this goes on, the more people are being affected. That's probably a very general way of putting the overall mood. I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
But one thing that is not helping is all the dangling of the carrots, right? If we get to this point, then maybe you'll get this and maybe you'll get this. And I said to someone a few days ago, I just wish they'd come out and tell everyone was stuffed until Christmas, because that's pretty much what it's going to be. And if they said that, people would stop getting their hopes up and stop getting let down every week when these things keep getting extended. We could give our staff some actual clarity, because as much as we try, when we say one thing and the news says something completely different, you can't blame the staff. Everyone's only human for trying to work out what the hell is going on. And then I had that conversation with someone, and then I was watching Sky News, and someone actually did the figures, which says we won't be double dosed until... We won't be at 80% double dose until halfway through November.
Hold on. We're talking the news. If people are going to know about the news, mate, I'm talking about our staff. Come on, mate. Come on, Ken. Talk about our staff. How they going? Our staff actually Your office, they're going fine.
I think I think overall results wise, they're absolutely going fantastically. Like we've just had 2 record months in a row, and both of those we've spent in lockdown. So results wise and busyness wise, you know, the level of inquiry for us is still really, really good. The level of, I mean, we've got people coming up left, like wanting to come up left, right, and centre from Sydney, still purchasing property and even coming from other areas. So in terms of that, it's fine. Probably similar to what Cam said, just people are just over it. Like they're really just over being on Zoom, being on front of screens, working from home. You know, a couple of them that are still in the office are just feeling the pinch of the fact that they're there, but it's not the normal vibe. And we were only, I was chatting with a friend today and we laughed about it, that when we first went into lockdown, we sort of thought, oh God, it's a bit of overkill, really. Like, why are we going into lockdown? The numbers aren't that bad. You know, 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, and it'll all be good. And even like getting towards the end of July, people were saying, oh, it's going to be August, it's going to be October, it's whatever. And even at the time, I thought, that's like such a weird thing to say. Like, I don't see that we're going to be in it for that long. But, you know, here we are in the start of September and we still are. So I think, you know, to answer your question, considering, I think they're doing pretty well. But, you know, everyone's just fighting daily battles, I think, with how they're feeling, what their emotions are. Boredom.
No. Not everyone's fighting it. Cam, I believe that you've given your staff a cheese platter today. Apparently, young Keynes, thank you to death, gave you big hugs. It was as if it was Christmas came through. He showed full gratitude. Is it correct?
Yeah, that did. The young kid, good on him. He was very happy to see us. He doesn't drink wine, but he's going to learn today. I think he's out there. Hope you're having a sip now, Kano. Well done.
So you delivered every one of our staff like a cheese platter and bottle of wine.
Yeah, we did. We did our staff today so they could watch the podcast with us. We actually did the same thing with my other businesses during the week. We got all the ladies a nice platter and a bottle of wine, and you know, one of them rang. They all rang, and obviously were full of gratitude. But one rang me in tears, which just sort of showed how much the small things at the moment that we probably don't pay enough attention to are affecting people. Just those small minutes of a bit of love and a bit of affection, a bit of connection.
But do you find that? I mean, I've done it now with my with head office and giving them fruit baskets, and we've done the cheese. Do you find a difference in the way that people behave? Like some would really thank you, and some it's like, you're the boss. It's okay if you give it to me. It's a normal thing. Because I've sensed that too. You know.
Yeah, there was a percentage. There was you know, there was a percentage, a lot of extreme gratitude, and a smaller percentage of a bit of entitlement and a sort of a whatever approach, which, you know, that's comes with the territory, I guess, and that's probably if you were to do the same thing across all of society, it'd probably be the same percentage. You'd have 80% that were extremely grateful. You'd have, you know, 10% that will say you bloody should, and 10% that are probably in the middle, which don't really care.
And so with this kind of lockdown, do you find that it's actually been magnified, or do you think it's actually as normal as it was before? I mean, I've had employees, I'll tell you, who've been around me 6-7 years, never had even one drink, and every single time we've gone out in the 6 years, all right? And I'm not doing that for the drinks, but it tells me about the mentality of the person. It tells me about the level of care, probably with clients, and these are the things that really, I think that through lockdown, and we just read a part of that book, through adversity, through chaos, which is what we read last week. It actually reveals a person, you know. Adversity reveals a person. You behave, the way you behave in your worst circumstances show me exactly the way you will behave in the best of circumstances.
Yeah, 100%. I think, as I was getting to at the start, the longer this goes on, the more and more of that we're going to see, which is why I wasn't trying to get into the news, but I wish everyone could be given a little bit more certainty, you know. And But the point was that on that night when they did read the numbers out and said mid-November, I didn't actually feel any better. The fact that someone had finally come out and said it, my first thought was, shit, I got another 8 weeks of homeschool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the news of Joe Biden and his extraordinary success?
It was a great success, and I'm really happy for him. He saved he saved 4 people in Afghanistan, and I think he should be commended for it and definitely voted back in because, what a great job. What a great job.
Fantastic.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that Jeff gave him 7 points. I'm really going to have to ask Jeff to rethink it.
Jeff needs to drink less.
But Jeff is our stick, so whatever he decides is exactly what we will follow. So we'll see. All right.
What do you think, Tio? Because I'm not picking a fight, but you were very, very high on Joe Biden a little while ago. So what are your thoughts about
I think that when you compared him to Donald Trump, he had to be higher. So I think this is a thing. But now that Donald Trump is out of the picture, you compare the man really for who he is. And so what it shows is that a lot of people like me, we make the mistakes of sometimes gauging someone because we compare them to somebody else. But then when the bar is lifted or now they have to be compared to a different background, well, maybe we're seeing something different. And so I thought that was very, very good lesson for me, is that the way that I see someone so quite often is because I put them in the background of somebody else.
So he was being compared to Donald, whereas now he's just being compared to what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And he's falling on the wrong side of that. Would we agree?
Well, I don't think he's falling on the wrong side. I think that he's doing now what politicians do, which is recover and try and make up for every kind of stories. It's a little bit like, anyway, we can talk a little bit more about all this. But right now I've got Louise on the line. Hi, Louise. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hello, Louise.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can everyone hear Louise?
Yeah.
Hey, Lou.
Hi, everyone. How is everyone going?
Hey.
Yeah,
Awesome.
good. You?
Yeah, awesome. I'm in the beautiful Port Macquarie sunshine today. It's amazing. Spring's turned it on.
Oh God, Louise! The reason I think that you're an interesting person to talk to is your young mother, who has to run 2 businesses.
Yes.
And who still have to deal with homeschooling. So how do you survive all of this? And then on top of that, your partner is almost like another child. Sorry, I didn't mean it. But
no, that's okay.
So how do you deal with that?
Look, Thomas. Look, I'm going to be honest. It's not easy at the moment. Homeschooling this time round, for some reason, seems to be. I don't know whether it seems slightly harder or whether I'm just busier. But it is a juggle. Because as you said, 2 businesses, and then the school teacher hat is what gets me as well. Like, I've got to make sure that my son, thank God I've only got 1 child left at school. Mind you, my daughter's home doing uni at the moment as well, so it's a bit chaos. So, just making sure that he's keeping up with his schoolwork on top of me worrying about making sure the business is doing what it needs to do and people are meeting the needs of the people within the business and outside of the business, I suppose. It is a juggle, but I guess, that's where you rely on the strength of your team and your network and your community, I suppose, and, checking in. And technology is great. That allows, for me to be, like I was Zooming my son from work before, making sure that he's okay and done this assessment and done this, and you just do it.
Do you catch yourself now regretting that you should have been better at maths back in the days, or what?
Every day.
What year is Jerem in, Lou?
Jerem's in year 9 now, so year 9 maths is out of this world for me. I thank God I've got 2 other children who are a lot more intelligent than me when it comes to schoolwork. And see, times are so different, Thomas. Like when I was at school, it was pen and paper. Calculators didn't. They weren't even allowed most of the time. It was pretty much use your brain and pen and paper. And where now it's upload this to this programming. And, Jaron was creating a whole comic book the other day on some program and, having to put the captions in and create the characters and design their clothing. And I'm thinking, my Lord, what is this? Whereas it's just such a different, school today is just so different to when I went to school. And,
wow.
That's where I sort of think, wow, how times have changed. But thank God, technology allows for them to be communicating with their teachers a lot, and via email and text message, and it's amazing. Like I find that they've got a lot more lines of communication through to their teachers this way, whereas they probably wouldn't have if COVID didn't happen.
Right. Do you find? I mean, they say that the domestic violence, especially in regards to children, has dramatically increased. Do you find a little bit of that kind of tension in the house?
Not in my house, but I can say...
Not with Steve.
Pardon?
Not with Steve around, no.
No. But what I can say, though, is you can actually... We're usually a pretty easygoing, fun-loving family, but just everybody being in the one place at once... You can feel the tension, and I can easily see how some families who perhaps don't live that easygoing sort of more casual lifestyle, who are very sort of intense, how domestic violence, and mental health can really creep in very quickly and unexpectedly in some circumstances, like it's really some of the things that we're seeing and hearing is not so nice, to be honest.
Yeah, but I can't blame the kids. Like the last 2 years, they've lost contact with their mates. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, with even sports kids, they haven't been able to exercise and train with on their gift and talents. It's like my daughters have had no one in the last 2 years almost in terms of who to play against in tennis. So how the hell do they train for that next level when there's no more training?
Well, this is it. Like my boys have played football, pretty much every year, and not being able to the last 2 years because of COVID, exactly that, keeping up to the level that they need to keep up to, compete every year, and, not just physically but mentally, and I'm constantly making sure that Jaram is, if I have a day like today where I left this morning, at 7 o'clock and I haven't been back yet, where usually I'd be back, a few times during the day, I'm constantly making sure that he's not just quickly whipping through his 2 hours or 1 hour of work in the morning and then sitting on his laptop as most 14-year-olds would do. I'm making sure that he's going out and walking the dogs down the street and doing things that keep him out, because it's almost like, I thought about it the other day, that kid pretty much hasn't left the house for probably 10 days now, which is really not healthy, but it's also not allowed in these times. And it's hard because, I feel a little bit guilty when work takes up so much of my time, and it has to, and I know I've got to be there for the 11 people that are under me. Then I've got, the balance of trying to make sure that I'm being there for him. But yeah, it is a difficult balance. There's no question.
Yeah. Well, what do you say to the mothers who are saying, I think it's very selfish of you to be at work all day long and leave at 7 in the morning when your kids are at home and probably need your attention and your presence.
Yeah, and look, it's almost like, when you start working after having children, like I had that same battle when I went to work full-time after having kids, and I struggled, and that I've had numerous conversations, teary ones at that, with you on the phone with that guilt, and it's almost like it's back to that time to some extent. But, at the end of the day, I've got to look at it at the bigger picture, and, my kids always know that I'm there for them, whether it's phone, whether it's in, they know I'm just a phone call away whenever they need me. But the bigger picture is that the people that work with me in the business need me also. And I make sure that when I do get home, I apply a lot of time and energy into making sure, if I wasn't there much during the day, that I can make up for it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But, as for the people might think I'm selfish, but what's more selfish if I suddenly didn't do what I needed to do within the business and, and let all those 11 people down. You know, I don't feel as like I'm letting my son down by not being there as much this time as I was last year. Last year I was home for 4 months, 4 months straight. Whereas this year, I think it's different for everybody this year.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think that you're being selfish. I think that you're being just Wonder Woman to be able to do all of that. And you're not going out. It's not like you're going out there to have fun. You're going out there to make sure that you build something to enjoy with them. So I think that it's an amazing thing that you've done. I really thank you for that. Just one last question before I let you go. How about the other kid? How do you deal with him? I mean, Steve, how the hell do you put up with him all day?
Well, thankfully, he's so busy at the moment in the construction industry that I hardly see that kid. As long as when the sun comes up until the sun goes down, he's busy on his machine, so I hardly see him. So that's kind of good.
Oh, that's nice. Oh well, listen. I hope that things are going to be fine. And I thank you so much for your call, okay?
No problem. Thanks for catching up, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Lou.
Bye.
I just realised how lucky I am that I'm trying to teach year 4 and kindergarten at school, because imagine trying to do high school. So today I learned about compound sentences and the difference between a capital P and a lowercase p, and I could handle that.
It's on your level.
All I know how to do on a calculator is spell booby. So that's all we used to do. The struggle is real, though.
It is. But you turn any questions, I go, mate, you got your teachers there. Email your teacher; they'll answer the bloody questions.
I think shout out to Lou and to all the mums. I think the mums definitely probably take it harder and put more pressure on themselves than us Neanderthal men do sometimes in relation to that. But we've all got to remember that we're not school teachers.
Well, listen, the world is changing. I think people are doing certain things to improve the kids. Like in China, apparently now they're banning online video games for kids during the week. So that's an improvement. No more online video games. So I'm sure that Chairman Dan is going to apply that in Victoria.
If you run it past the comrade in Queensland, mate, that should be.
Oh, I almost can guarantee you a lot of PS5 and Xbox being sold for very, very cheap in Victoria. If New South Wales wants to buy, it's about now.
I saw a meme the other day that said that the coronavirus is lasted longer than any other thing made in China ever. That was
I saw that one actually.
God. Anyway, I just don't know. What's your thoughts about these things with the kids? Because I think that week in, week out, we keep on talking about a lot of things. Week in, week out, you hear the news, you're talking about everything, but we seem to have forgotten about these kids, where they're going to grow, the legacy we're leaving to them, the debts we're leaving in their hands. And yet right now they're sitting probably with parents who are telling them what to do, with parents who are getting frustrated, maybe losing their job or their business going bad, and creating more and more anger and resentment in them, and nothing else but a build-up that's going to have to explode one of these days.
I think kids respond so well to routine, and at the moment a lot of them, there is a routine but it's different to what they used to. So their normal 5-day-a-week routine, yes, they're still doing certain schoolwork and stuff 5 days a week, but it's not their normal 6 hours that they'd be there. It might be 2 or 3 at best for some of them. I know for some of the older teenage kids they're a bit more involved, but I know for the ones that are younger, they're sort of saying it's a couple of hours at best, and then the rest of the day they're doing, whatever they're doing. And I think that potentially will be something that'll be interesting to see how it pans out, but it will also be, I think, a difficult challenge to get them back into that routine, because they're so used to, maybe sleeping in a bit later than what they were, getting up, chilling in their jammies. It's a totally different routine to what they're used to. And I just think once that comes back to the norm, whenever that is, I think there'll be a lot more challenges then too, trying to get them back into it.
I don't think anyone's considered the ramifications of any of it, but especially with the kids. I mean, we're talking about we're talking about 2 years out of their development. And I know initially we were on here, you guys were saying, you know, it doesn't matter because they're at home and they can learn at home and this and that. Mate, you can only go so far before the natural. We're finding it as adults that we're struggling without being able to fulfill our natural instincts for socialisation and being around. What about these kids who are losing 2 years and now, and they've been put at the behest of politics, essentially. The comrade up in Queensland today said they're not going to open the borders until every child's vaccinated. So now we're using children as a political ploy. We've completely lost the plot. And the biggest, I fear for everyone, really, because I think everyone's struggling. But the people who don't know they're struggling, here's the thing: the kids don't know they're struggling.
Yeah.
And the kids don't know they're missing out on 2 years.
But right now, mate, you're lucky. You've got 2 young kids. You tell them what to do. You put them to bed at 7 o'clock, and there's no problem. I'm more interested in Chris, mate. You've got 2 kids now who are at the age of needing that social connection. This is a time when they are discovering the world, if you will. This is a time of boyfriend and girlfriends, and these 2 years they're in total lockdown. I mean, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. For us, it's been we've been very mindful that not everything's a no. I mean, if they want to do something, we try and work it in with the limitations. And if we've also been a little bit easier on their social interaction online. And Sebastian jumped on with his mates, gaming and so forth. After school work's done, and only for a limited period of time. Isabella's on, I think it's Instagram and stuff, and then she's on a few chats with her friends and so forth. So we allow that a lot more than we did, so they can still have that interaction. I think we're all very fortunate in what we're going through, because we neglect to think about a lot of the families out there that can't even afford the internet, or don't even have a computer, or share one computer amongst the whole family. And then their kids are really going to be suffering, not only in the social aspect, but obviously with school as well. I'm very wary about that, but with our kids, about not creating kids that have got anxiety, about worrying about having to wear your mask all the time. You know, you're only one of us to the shops. You know, we all can't go in the car or something. Rather, we've all got to be careful that we don't create an anxious society coming out of this. And we need to be the role models to our children for that, and sort of, you know, really reflect on how we're responding to news articles.
Yeah, you're so right. It's about telling them talking more about what can be done rather than what can't be done is important for the kids. It's
like there's a basketball hoop put at the end of our street. One of our neighbours obviously had it in their backyard. So they've bought it out, put it, because I live in a cul-de-sac, they've put it out, and Sebastian's gone, oh, I wish I had a basketball. So I jumped online, but Big W ordered him a basketball, and he's just walked out now to throw the hoop around for a while, the ball around for a while. Yeah, the wrong terminology. I'm built for sport, mate, as you can see.
Hard to see why he didn't have a basketball, mate.
No, he had like 23 footballs.
He kept looking in the hoop aisle. He's in the hoop aisle. I don't think any of us here take for granted that we're in a very, very fortunate position. We're employed for 1. We have businesses that are still working for 2. Our kids are safe for 3. But I think that's more important for us, people like us in our position, to talk about the plight of the others and try and affect an awareness, because people aren't realising how much trouble some people might be in. And I just don't know.
What about these kids that don't even live in a household that speak English? And they're going for the next 2 years, or these 2 years, with limited broadening of their vocabulary. It's crazy. They're going to come out in the same position, I think, in their education as when lockdown started. We're going to have a lot of kids repeating, and a lot of schools sort of struggling with that sort of concept.
The NAPLAN scores in the next 10 years aren't going to be brilliant.
I think the schools will have to come up with ways, though, that change that. Like, then surely they're not going to be expecting, you know, the year 4 kids that are in year 4 this year to be at the normal year 5 level next year, because it's not going to be the same case.
What about those schools? Where some of the kids have access and have parents that can help and so forth, and the other half of the kids don't have that? And when they come back to school, half their friends have moved on, and the other half have to repeat the year.
Listen, mate, we are all. Wine and Wisdom is about myth buster, right? So we just want to warn people that the thing that I'm about to show you next, it's a myth. It's not real, so don't worry too much.
I'm a bit tired of hearing people saying I don't know how to do my job properly, and I think that's really mean. I remember being criticised. Just remind everybody how criticised I was. That's not acceptable. I hope everybody likes staying at home because we are going to go into lockdown forever. Nobody from New South Wales is getting anywhere. We will have 2 million police officers standing at the corner of every street to monitor every single citizen. We're really watching very closely. I hope this really will be devastating. We don't like to be heavy-handed, but what we need to say today now is that if you leave home, we will give you a death sentence. Please know that you will be shot in the face, and I hope it's painful. You are required to obey what we say when we say it, and if you don't, you can prepare to die. I've said from the outset, I don't care about your life and the life of those around you. I don't really give a shit. The government is now about to announce what we call the final solution. We are inspired by history and realise we can very easily permanently get rid of anybody thinking illegal thoughts. We aim to have absolutely zero freedom. Follow the rules or else you'll never be seen again. If you think you can live freely under our very strict and harsh regime, I have news for you. If you even consider breaking the rules, I will personally stab you in the head and rip your guts out. We have 24 hours surveillance of every single person in the community. We want to cause anguish, hurt and suffering to as many citizens as possible. Every day at 11 o'clock, every citizen in this state must listen to me. This is the Fourth Reich, and I will make sure that I never, ever give up power till the day I die.
So we just want to warn everyone, that is a myth. We just want to warn, it's a myth, right?
Maybe.
It's not real. It's not real. Okay? She's a much nicer person than you think.
Whoever did that, honestly, that's gone viral.
That is so good.
You just reminded me of something, right? I came up with this brilliant idea today, which is going to fully put the tinfoil hat on my head. But you've got Emperor McGowan, they've named him, and Comrade Palaszczuk up in Queensland refusing, even after 80% vaccinations, to open the borders because they're going zero COVID and fuck whatever the government has said. And clearly they're only doing it because there's a federal election coming up next year and they're trying to get ScoMo booted. So my idea, which I shared with my wife this morning, was guarantee you there's a spy or someone with COVID being sent into Queensland and WA to give them the virus so they can see how they deal with it and watch the people turn. I bet you it's happened. I bet you they've sent someone in there trying to get these states with bigger numbers. There's the crap that's going on. Palaszczuk shared today, she's told the people on Twitter that the Doherty report, which is what they're all basing everything on, has said that at the peak of the virus and with 70% vaccinations, 2,640 people will be dying a month. The report actually says 1,300 people will be dying a month. 1,300 people will be dying a month. So she's actually just resorted to blatantly lying to scare her people into letting her keep the borders shut so she can stay in power. It's absolutely disgusting. So I reckon, send someone over the border with COVID and see what happens. Thoughts, feelings, nothing? No good?
Yeah, you know what?
You don't reckon they're doing it?
I just don't understand how Queensland can allow all these football teams and sport teams and movie stars to come in and blah, 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 blah.
No, so this Premier...
stop their own citizens, their own residents from moving back into their home that wanted to isolate for 2 weeks because they've been in New South Wales or Victoria.
So the same week she let 100 girlfriends and wives of NRL players fly into Queensland. A lady had a miscarriage on her friend's lounge room floor because she had sold a house, was moving to the Sunshine Coast but couldn't cross the border. Had nowhere to live, was homeless, had no furniture, no car, was staying with a friend's house, and that's where she's lost a kid. While 100 wives and girlfriends of NRL players.
That's what I can't understand.
I will stab them in the face.
Stab them in the face. But what I want to know is how...
2 million police on every corner.
What's going on in Queensland and Western Australia where they're standing for this? Like, where are the people in all of this?
No. We're about to enter an election year.
Yeah, I know. That's why...
Queensland is... Who's running it? A Labor or Liberal?
Liberal.
Queensland?
No, but there's a federal election coming, not a state
In
election.
Queensland, it's Labor.
Yes.
Who's in Western Australia?
Labor.
Come on, right? But
Even Chairman Dan.
It's just a game. It's just a game.
But that's
Well,
how
it's obviously just a
disgusting.
game because they're letting all the football players in.
No, but that's it. So she can go to Tokyo. She can let the state of origins happen. WA is going to have the AFL Grand Final. This is where people are ridiculous. I hope we reach Queensland and WA because, unfortunately, in those states, the premiers have a very high approval rating, which is just fucking ludicrous. Because the only reason, and none of them own a tourism business, obviously, because they're all being made, they're all gone. How is tourism going to recover from this?
There is no tourism at the moment.
What are the people doing? What are the people doing? Because even Gladys now has had to soften her tones because there's more and more protests popping up. More and more people are slowly starting to speak up. So even Gladys has had to go, even though she wants to shoot us all in the face and hopes it hurts. It's a myth. Right? Even the Fourth Reich has had to soften her stance. Right? You know what I heard today? Good news, people. I heard her on the radio today. She said, you know, previously we didn't even allow them more than an hour's exercise, but good news today, we're going to allow them to exercise for longer than an hour. And she was doing it as if it was an actual win. They've bashed people that hard that being allowed to exercise for longer than an hour is now being considered a win. She's wrong.
What's the go? What's the go? Didn't she also say that they were going to look to open back up the border, like the international borders?
Christmas, yeah, by Christmas.
Before Christmas,
You can't do that because New Zealand's now got the South African strain, which is immune to all the vaccines.
No,
C2 1.2. We're all going to hell in Gladys's handbag. That's the problem.
But I think she's come to terms with the fact that we're going to live with the virus at some point, whereas there's lots of other premiers that are sitting there going, we're going to stay at zero, which...
Yeah, I can tell how we're going to live with it. What they've said is at 70% now, they're investigating in some areas, and I've heard the Central Coast is one of those areas. They're going to allow hospitality venues to potentially open back up as long as all the staff are vaccinated and as long as all the patrons are vaccinated. Well, seeing only 30% of the whole population is double vaccinated, there's going to be a lot of 96-year-olds drinking in pubs and nobody else because they're the only ones that are double vaccinated at the moment. So
they gave stats. They did give stats on the different age groups as to like who had their first vax, who had their second. I didn't see all of it, but I saw part of it. So they gave stats on that. But
pretty sure you and me aren't allowed back on the tiles yet, Megsy. Don't worry, when we are, it's on.
It might not be an issue. It might be a good thing.
No, I think the things have gone wrong. Maybe our politicians should really have their pay connected to what they're doing. You know, the whole business world is based on performance, right? The better you perform, the more you earn. And politicians, they don't care. They actually have a pay rise whether they're going to destroy this country. And I'm not they're going to destroy the country, but I'm just thinking.
It's already been done, son.
In these days, I'm so happy. I don't own a gym. I don't own a restaurant.
Yes,
you know, like if I have a restaurant that can do a bit of takeaway, serious, I'm still making money. But how do you get a restaurant like Lumi, who one of the top restaurants, but you have to be there to experience the 20 odd people they have in their kitchen to cook for you? How the hell do you do that? How do they pack food in the box and send it to you? How do you have that experience?
Yeah, I got lunch today from quite a popular cafe down in West Gosford, and they've had to resort to selling basic food supplies like flour and sugar and cereal and stuff just to try and keep income coming in. Problem is, well done for thinking outside the box. They've got to charge double or triple what you can get it from a supermarket for just for it to make sense. So there's absolutely no chance. And it makes up a huge percentage of the population. Huge percentage of the population. And Tio, you're 100% right. The only way we actually get people doing right by the people is if every decision made, the people making the decision suffer the same consequences of that decision as the people they're making it for. And I think the same should be true in business. Right? If you're going to be laying staff off because you can't afford to keep the doors open, you better be sure as hell taking a pay cut yourself. I believe that of owners in business and leaders and all that sort of stuff as well. And the politicians in all of this are the only people who haven't taken a pay cut. The only ones. I'm glad Harvey Norman just paid back $6 million of the $46 billion they made during the last lockdown. That was good.
No, I think that's wrong. They didn't have to pay back. If they had done it legally and done it right, why did they have to repay it? It doesn't really matter. But what I'm worried more about, it's not that issue. I think that's tall poppy syndrome talk that we're having right now. Okay, like because they made zillions. They made zillions. It's fine. It's up to them if they want to do it. And I think that Jerry Harvey wanting to do it, perfect. All right, but it's not. No, it's not a friend of mine. I think I'm looking at the action. Really, do you think any of these politicians would have stepped up and say, "Hey, listen, we're actually giving back a portion of our money"?
No chance.
Because we our decisions won't. Come on, man. So let's be real here. What I'm trying to really talk about is now we have people who in this second lockdown are now on a wage subsidy, and I speak to some of these business owners, and because they've got their staff on business subsidy, they actually don't even feel like they can talk to their staff. They can't even ask them to work. You know, this is where we're starting to have anomalies. It's when we have businesses being broken from inside because the government's saying, do you know what, stay home, we give you handouts. There's staff that are asking their leaders, listen, put me on that 20 hours so that I can have that 20 hours and you can have that subsidy. But what they're really asking the business owners is so that I can have the other 18 hours to myself to do stuff for, and I'm still paid for it. I think that's also wrong. So, you know, we just read that chapter today. If everyone really gave their best, we probably wouldn't be here. So we can't just blame one set. But I think that for the moment, one of the biggest mistakes that politicians are making is that they are making the same rules for lockdown 2 that they made for lockdown 1. Lockdown 1, yes, we didn't know what we were confronting. A lockdown was the right thing to do, then get it. Okay, no problem, even though I didn't think it was the right thing to do. But then we now have lockdown 2. They're doing it with 7 people dying out of 1,300 a day. Are you serious? We're wrecking the whole country because we're now looking at this and going at a rate that is lower than the flu. Now that is a problem.
And the other problem is in lockdown 1, they used every other country as an example, did they not? They said we didn't want to be the next Italy. We didn't want, pick a country. And now they're ignoring that every other country is opening at 50% vaccination rate, 60% vaccination rate, hasn't been able to get to 80% vaccination rate. So when it suited them, we're compared to the rest of the world. And now it doesn't suit them. We're not compared to anyone else in the world at all. And the more we've got to highlight these hypocrisies, guys, because we also read in that chapter that until people speak up, we're a lapdog and we're a slave, and people need to be able to voice their opinion on it.
We have our mate, our mate Jeff online. Our Stig is online. How you doing, Jeff?
Oh, very well, team. Very well.
You're dead to me. Dead. How can I be below the Don?
Well, can I just look? I seen the scoreboard, and I reflected on it. I did reflect on it.
Yes.
For probably 2 seconds. but I've been listening to Cam talk, and I realize there is a nice side to him. And even Thomas, you've even indicated that as well. That he's not too bad.
I lied, Jeff. I lied.
Bad. Yeah, and he's
usually sleeping.
He talked about his family today, and I'm sure they all love him.
Actually, that's another lie.
That's debatable.
He pays them too.
But then again, he started talking about, the lovely hamper baskets, and you talked about the love and the affection and the connection.
You're starting to blush.
I felt warm. I really felt warm and fuzzy.
Guys,
It's blushing.
well, listen, and you better take it as a positive because the Jeff is not to be that nice. His job is to not rate you because he can see through the core of you like nobody else. So whatever the Jeff scores you, we know it's real.
All I'm hearing is words, Jeff. I need action on that scoreboard, mate, before I believe that you've finally come around, all right? All I'm seeing is words.
I just thought to myself, somebody posted a nice comment, he should be an actor or a lawyer. I was thinking, he doesn't like the Labor in Queensland. He doesn't like Gladys. There's a new guy in town, part of Clive Palmer's group. Craig Matthews, I think his name is. He's all about anti-lockdown. Mm-hmm. And I think you ought to get into that politics.
It's funny that you mentioned this, Jeff, because I was telling the guys off air earlier that I am actually starting my own political party. I told Thomas that I wouldn't be around to help as much with the business as previous. It's Cams United National Treasures, and I'll be fourth on the ballot. You can all vote for me.
On a serious note, Jeff, how is the state of COVID so far?
Well, look, what Gladys says is correct. We're going to have a really tough...
She wants to shoot us. She's a Fourth Reich. Jeff, you've gone mad. You've gone mad.
Stab us in the face.
You've lost it. She's going to stab us all.
But
you just said she was right. I
well,
don't know about this.
we're going to have it in October. But it's. Oh, look, I got to say another funny thing. I actually did hear this on the news. The truck driver went to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So Cam's prediction's right.
Spies everywhere.
We have sent a spy across there who's got COVID.
Thank you.
Listen, those two states, I reckon, Jeff, those two states, Western Australia and Queensland, their numbers are going to go exactly the same way our numbers are going. Right?
Of course.
There's no way they're going to be at zero, okay? And if they're zero, they're doing the Chinese thing. They shoot the bastard and then they die from the bullet before they die from COVID, all right? I guarantee you there is no such thing as pure, perfect zero.
And that we've seen that now in...
1-0 on the scoreboard.
It's doubling in Victoria.
Yeah.
So, I think, lockdown, early, lockdown late, I think it would have ramped through New South Wales.
All right. Here's the time now because, Jeff, you will never escape this party of ours because here's the time now for rating. Where do you rate Gladys' performance so far? Out of 10. This is the time.
Well, at the very beginning, I would have given her an 8 or a 9.
What?
And what's actually...
Wait for the back. He's a diplomat. You can see it.
What?
Wait. The Jeff has to give us the number. You can scream out.
I think it's come down a little bit. I think she's made some mistakes. And I think, the messaging that she's giving out, and, hate to say this, but Cam's probably right, giving people 1 hour extra or whatever.
Yeah, that is... Well, listen, telling the prisoners they can have now unlimited time in their little courtyard, I mean, seriously, man, that's not going to help.
Yeah, I know. It's now at Park Lee. I suppose Southwestern people must feel like people at Park Lee.
So what's her score, mate?
Can I give her a 7.5?
Oh, 7.5. You score her higher than Joe Biden.
Oh, man.
Well, Joe, I still think Joe's done a great job, really.
Oh, what?
So
look, Obama.
Cameron's gone.
Obama in 2011 said that we should be out of Afghanistan by 2014.
Yeah.
Trump was the one that signed the agreement with the Taliban. Joe Biden
left his own translator to die. He left his own translator there to die, Jeff.
Well, not today. He's hiding. It's hiding.
Oh, okay, he's hiding.
He's hiding safe for the moment.
He dug him a hole.
If they find you, right? For the moment, he's hiding.
Well,
7.5, Jeff. 7.5 it is. Whatever you say is 7.5. So Gladys score way higher than Cam. Well done, Gladys, for this week.
Well, I like that. I like that video clip. I think it has been edited slightly. But,
Yeah, but I think it's been done by some young school children who are now mastering the Zoom and video on their system.
yeah. I did see another one very similar to that. I think Gladys is copying or hiding from that. But anyway, no.
What does Anastasia get, Jeff? If you put her higher than me.
Think positive. We've done a great job in vaccinating. We're the highest state in Australia, and I think that's what's going to help us. And I do
We're
believe...
the only state that's on a full lockdown, to be fair.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, what was that, Meg?
I said we're the only state that's in full lockdown, so you would expect to be the highest state vaccinated as well.
That's the only way you can go for a walk.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I get to do an extra 30 push-ups a day because it's clearly working. I mean,
So, Jeff, you haven't answered Cam's question. You haven't answered Cam's question. Palache, comrade, where do you score her?
Sorry, who was that?
yeah, exactly. What do you score Anastasia?
Oh, Anastasia, God. No, I think.
Can I just set a rule before you go on?
Yeah, I put her like a 3.
Whoa!
Hey,
Done wrong.
higher than me.
Why a three? Why a 3? Because her state scores 0 COVID day in, day out.
I think she's almost as divisive as Trump. Because they're both spreading the same horrible story.
Okay. So what's the horrible story? I mean, she's from the smart state. They should know.
She was the one that clearly said, and the same as the chief medical officer said, that they don't want to be giving people under the age of 60
AstraZeneca, yeah?
And the second thing is, now she got on yesterday, and she also said that she does, we're going to allow all these 20% of the population come and infect all the children. That's very poor words, and it's also quite wrong.
Okay.
And, and also, to other people's points, we did let all the NRL players and the cricket players come in. There's been horrible stories where people can't get across the border. There was a little child that was discussed, went to visit grandparents, has not been able to get back for 2 months.
No.
Because he was in New South Wales country, which was considered a COVID area. So, when you hear all this is Queensland, this is the chief medical officer. They're making, and now if you look at COVID, it's the one disease, but we would have probably 5 different ways of handling it. And I think that's the silly part. And I think it's not health. I think politicians are making decisions about what will open up, what will close.
But they say that they rely on scientists to do that.
They take their advice, but I think they make decisions based on social, economic rationale, not pure medical.
An election coming up.
Yeah, I don't think it's economic. It's not socio-economic. It's polls. It's nothing to do with the economy because they're all going broke. So.
Popularity vote. That's all it is.
Yeah, so I think, I think that there's so many small businesses that are going broke. And I think we do need to open up as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And I think that's what the only thing that's going to help us is the 80%.
So where's the rationale, Jeff? Where's the rationale if Labor are meant to be about the people, right? They're all for the worker. They're all for the people. Union, que sera, all that stuff. So where's the rationale in Labor sending the country broke by not opening up any borders?
Well, it's the Liberal government that's making the decisions about opening up borders.
No, it is not. That's state borders, mate.
International.
It's a federal government, yeah, that will make the final decision anyway. Yeah.
No, they don't have control over the
For the moment, they're giving them like that illusion of having a voice. They can overstep. They can step in any time.
Why haven't they stepped in yet then?
Well, Alan Joyce even said that when he flies to London, he'll stop off at Darwin to fill up. So he'll bypass Perth now. That's great. And I think you would have seen that like 50 big businesses all sent letters to the state premiers saying that you've got to open up borders.
Now, the Jeff, our Stig, thank you so much for this week. 3 for Palaszczuk, 7.5 for Gladys. We talk to you next week.
Nothing for Cam. I love you, Jeff. I love you. I love you, Jeff.
God. Oh, man. Oh, well, listen, mate, you can criticize those two women. They still score higher than you can. And I'm very, very sorry. But our Jeff is always right, okay? He's like the barometer of wisdom at and so sip and score, man.
Mate, I was going to make you the campaign manager of Cam's United National Treasures Party, but
don't want to be shot. Don't want to be shot. I'm already being shot at the One Nation Party, where I am the deputy leader.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to poach you, except that your propaganda that you just put on didn't sway him at all. We play a 3-minute video of Gladys saying she wants to shoot us in the face. And Jeff's first words are, Gladys is right in what she says. Oh, come on, man. We're in trouble in the polls, TL. We're in big, big trouble.
But do you see what we're doing? We're having a lot of fun, but we're doing a bit of this kind of myth buster. Now, let's have a look. Gladys, somehow, so we're going to have Megan and Chris, you're going to have to be one side, and Cam and I, we're going to be on the other side, okay? Gladys just said that in November the 8th, children will be going back to school. What do you think about the announcement?
So you guys are for it?
You guys are for, and we're going to be against, okay? All right, let's go. Let's do it.
All right, go, be gone, mix, mingle, celebrate schoolhood. Join with your friends and leave us alone for a little while.
Come on, Cam, give it to them, man.
They're only going back to school for a month. You've let us turn our kids into morons over the last 3 months, and then you're going to give us 4 weeks before they're home. Hey, hang on. The teachers have done half an hour a week of Zoom teaching. They get the kids back in the classroom for a month who admittedly have been turned into zombies because they've had no education for the last 2 years. And then after 4 weeks, the teachers again need another 6-week holiday, so we get them again for 6 weeks. Thank you so much, Gladys. Thank you for doing that for us. We're allowed an extra half an hour exercise a day, and our kids get to go to school for 4 weeks in a year. Thank you.
Yeah, but 4 weeks is better than
a long time.
Depends what school you're at.
Here's my thing, all right? Make Chris. These people don't even know how to make the right decision for businesses for adults. They say that Delta variant is actually quite contagious with the kids. But already as of today, they've made the decision that on the 8th of November, the kids are going to go back to school and almost like be terrorists, like be carriers of bombs, if you will, going and mingling against each other and then go home with the bombs and bring them home to kill the parents and the elders. How can we make a decision today about schooling when we haven't even made a decision for businesses?
Well, that part's crazy, but we weren't talking about the business part.
I'm sorry. You are the for, we are the against. So we
don't jump on our side of the fence. We don't want you. We don't want you.
We are the one.
We are the future.
If you had a choice, though, for your kids to go to school for 4 weeks or not, wouldn't you pick for them to go to school?
Yeah, but is it safe for them to go to school now? Because all of a sudden on November 8th, they're safe from this vile disease that's going to kill us all. But November 8th, they're cool.
Cam, you say that like you don't believe it's going to kill us all.
But that's why I'm on the against side, mate.
So we're going to send our kids.
How do you pick a date? All of a sudden, in 2 months' time, we are so certain of what's going to happen in 2 months' time, even though
The kids.
Chairman Dan said we're only going to be Victoria's only going to be locked down. Quick snap lockdown to flatten the curve, and New South Wales had to go into a snap lockdown that was only going to be short to flatten the curve with numbers going up every day. Now, all of a sudden on November 8th, kids are cool. Kids are cool. You got to stay in lockdown because now the kids are catching COVID, but on November 8th, they're cool. All right. You can't leave your home. You can't exercise. You can't go to work because now even kids are catching COVID, but on November 8th, you're cool.
We're going to burn their clothes at the front door and give them showers before they come in with the garden hose. Get big brooms and scrub them down. Just a bit of Pino clean.
What did Donald Trump say? We'll inject some
bit of mineral terps, wash them down with a bit of mineral terps. It'll be right.
Yeah, that sounds like Gladys's final solution, where a lot of other people were forced to showers.
No, but what are we teaching our kids? Hey, listen, what's his name? Viktor Frankl wrote in his book Men in Search of Meaning that one of the reason he survived Auschwitz and the concentration camp back in the Second World War, and he's helped other people do that, is to help them find a meaning way beyond what they're going through. If you're going through hell, but you attach to that a meaning that is way beyond that, it gives you a bigger chance. Now, he noticed that the people who are actually dying are the people who get to listen to the radio and it says the Americans are coming at Christmas, and they don't. The Americans are going to be there by Easter, and they don't. Now things are happening. They realize that the kids are going crazy, so they're coming up with this stuff about the children. And then what if they just start changing stuff again with the children? Aren't they doing the non-Viktor Frankl on our kids?
They're using the same thing on our kids that they've used on us. When you get to 6 million doses, we'll give you a present. What was the present? Does anyone remember?
It didn't affect us.
We get to go to the park.
We could do that anyway.
So but aren't they using also our kids as guinea pigs by saying, if we actually tell them that their kid's gonna go back, we're gonna actually keep the adults contained. What do you say to that?
What they've obviously got in the background is they've got a plan. They have to have a plan, right?
Yeah. Non-vaccinated kids back to school.
So what they're doing is they're drip feeding information to us, and they're saying, okay, the kids are going to be back by a certain date. In between time, they've got all this stuff happening in the background that's going to include, you've got to have your jabs, your double jab to be able to, literally leave your front door. You've got to have your double jab.
Taking our rights away. Yep.
So they're going to have all of that they're trying to roll out. They're going to be putting all this technology in place to be able to make that happen, because at the moment it would be an honesty policy. We've got a policy in place that for real estate, people have to get a permit to come up from Sydney. I don't know about you, Cam, but there's a lot of people that are getting those permits, and there's a lot of people that ain't telling the truth on those permits.
You're on the side of sending kids to school on November 8th. I don't even know why I'm talking to you, because you're on that side of the fence.
You farm. Come
All
on.
Right? No. Tell me why it's okay to send our kids back to school on November 8th when the whole reason we're locked down is because this new Delta strain says that kids can catch it. Yes. Why is it now okay? You can't tell me, because there is no reason.
Hey, I didn't make the rule. I'm just saying that clearly.
You're supporting the rule. You are that party.
Because I got told I had to. So what I'm saying is, if you let me talk like you said you were going to before we got on here.
That was my mum, by the way, who said Megan needs to talk more.
Yeah, thanks to Cam's mum. What I was trying to say was that obviously in the background they've got a whole lot of other shit going on that is going to have all this stuff that people are going to have to be double vaxxed and rah for all these other businesses to reopen. I don't know why they would project the start of September that in November schools are going to go back. I don't know why.
November the 8th, not even the start of November, one day. All they're projecting is their tax returns. Your side, all you're worried about is how much income's coming in and where your funding's going next. You make me sick, you two. Make me sick.
If they were that worried about that, why are businesses still shut? Wouldn't they open it back up to get the income coming in?
Chris, why don't you have anything to say on this? Have you got a fence paling as usual?
No, I'm not a fence sitter. I want to know. I think, look, this decision's been made on obviously the release of lockdown from obviously the general public. They're telling us end of September. I don't believe that. I don't know about you guys. I think we're going to probably be in here till, I reckon, mid-October to late October.
No, so just so you're clear, the numbers are we won't be 80% vaccinated, double vaccinated till the 19th of November.
But weren't they saying we need 60%, not 80%?
I think that the case has now been done. The rest we're going to go around. Listen, one last questions before we close this. So let's close this on something positive. What about we guys have a startup where we're going to invest money into manufacturing a mask that will change color when someone with COVID starts to breathe in it?
I'm thinking of starting a homeschooling company. I don't know shit, but we're going to be homeschooling forever. So
No, I'm keeping my kids away from you.
You're not allowed though. People wouldn't be able to come.
Story of my life.
Hey, so my kids the other day tried to practice tennis over Zoom. It doesn't work.
That's why you need those 3 new computers.
Oh, you beat me to that. That's why you need the computers now.
Oh, God. Anyway, one of the big thing though is over Zoom. I have to say I've been mastering a lot more of Zoom, and it's just crazy how you actually can do the same thing you were doing before over Zoom. You know how you can still train people in a group every single time and visit them and see how they're going. It's fantastic, you know. But the big thing that I think is it's a tool for leaders, and I wonder how many leaders really take the time to really study Zoom, because I reckon Zoom is such a powerful machine. You can do everything you used to do just with Zoom.
Do you think it's dangerous in a way though, TL, where yes, we need to be using it now and leaders who aren't are going to suffer, but do you think there's also a danger that when things return to somewhat normal, which they're not going to be normal, but somewhat normal, where we can actually meet face to face, the lazy among us just go, we'll just Zoom it instead of doing personal? Do you think that'll happen?
Now, can I jump in there? I think people are going to so badly crave being physically around each other that
party time, Megsy.
No, but on a work level, like even any social interaction, people are going to literally like just want it.
No, I'm talking about leaders though. So lazy bosses before COVID, lazy bosses after COVID. Hang on, here's a way I can do it with even less effort. Thank you, COVID, for teaching me that. Is there a danger that some people stick with that rather than go back to face-to-face?
No, there always will be, mate. There will be some people, but not everyone, not the smart ones.
In some ways that will create more efficiency. So there's some things that, Zoom probably could replace even when we do go back to normal, but there's so much that it shouldn't, because we're humans. We're meant to be around each other. We're meant to vibe off that person to person kind of. Yeah.
I think Zoom's going to stay. If anything, I think Zoom's going to get stronger and stronger, because I don't think that this is our last lockdown. I think there's going to be a few other stuff. The way that we have been conditioned right now, it's only the beginning of this conditioning. And if there's one thing that I will have to say that my children would have learned very, very wrongly in this generation, is that it is okay to obey the government blindly and lock yourself down in some kind of prison. You don't really need to go to a Long Bay jail anymore. You can actually be in prison in your own home anytime that they push a button. And this is what I'm scared of, is that in the future, at the press of a button, any idiot who scores a 7.5 or 3, which is way, way higher than minus whatever it is, but the Jeff didn't want to give us, that the whole lot of us would just obey and stay home. I think that's the scared thing about where life is heading.
That's been the problem the whole time, and then it gets scarier because I think most of us here condemned the people who tried to protest the first time, right? So we're saying this, we're saying that we shouldn't be following the government blindly. We shouldn't be following the only people who aren't taking a pay cut in all this blindly, but then we're also dobbing on each other for standing up for our own rights. Whether you're skeptical that people are actually standing up for their own rights or not, I'm sure that crowd may have had a restaurant owner who had been pushed to the brink and may have had a gym owner who had been pushed to the brink. And it's until the majority speak up. And I think that's why Gladys has changed the messaging, which is what I said before, because more people are starting to talk. Right? Unfortunately, that thing in Queensland hasn't heard enough people starting to talk, or she doesn't care because she hasn't changed the messaging at all. But the biggest fear for our lives and as we are as humans is what Thomas just said, that our kids think we just have to follow stuff blindly and not question. And that once that happens, that's the end of us all. There's already the C2 1.2 strain that's hit Europe and a bunch of countries, including New Zealand. Yeah, from South Africa, and they're already showing that the vaccines that we've been forced to take now so we can exercise for 1 hour a day aren't effective against it.
Yeah, but come on, mate. Stop about forced to take. I've been forced to...
you weren't forced to take it? You weren't forced?
I've been forced to take the tuberculosis vaccine. I've been forced to take the tetanus vaccine, mate.
I've never been told before that I can't have a beer unless I'm vaccinated, mate. Never before.
No.
Never before I've been told that I can't have a beer.
Is about your freedom being taken away. But you know how many vaccine that's been pumped into you already, man?
Yeah, no, I get it. But I had a choice.
Nobody asked me whether I agree to the tetanus. Nobody asked me
had a choice.
Things such as, the tuberculosis and all that stuff. But nobody's asked me all that stuff. It's disgusting. No, what we are discussing right now is the lack of freedom. And that's what people are angry about. And I think where the discussion has been mixed, and this is why no one really can come up with anything, it's because we're discussing freedom versus vaccine. The day that someone really will sit down and say, hold on, these are two different things. Are we talking about freedom? And today's world, we all want freedom. Social media has blown it up. Everyone wants to be free. They want to be their own free self on social media, but they commit suicide because they got less likes now than before. I mean, that's a crazy bit. But the day that someone will sit down and make a real talk about there's freedom and there's vaccine that you've been ingesting all your life. Now let's talk.
Yeah, you want your freedom that bad that you're trying to argue with someone who completely agrees with you and is only fighting for freedom, mate.
No, but this is why...
I don't have a beer. I said I've never been...
This is why we are myth busters.
I said I've never been told before that I can't have a beer unless I'm vaccinated. Not once, but now I've been told I can't go and have a beer unless I'm vaccinated. That's freedom, brother. That's Mel Gibson. That's Braveheart. Great movie.
Just got someone on our Facebook who said, Amanda actually said, anyone who will give up a little liberty for a little security will deserve neither both or will lose both. Apparently there's a cafe where, one cafe received death threats for supporting another cafe right to protest.
Yeah, that's in Long Jetty. I know what she's talking about. I'll call it out. That's a glass onion in Long Jetty who's now been polarised and bashed into submission because they supported someone who turned up to the very first protest that we went to. And I was at an appointment last week where the people at the house were glorifying that fact. They'll never serve another coffee ever again because they dared to support someone who was standing up for their freedom. And that's what we're going to come.
Let's close on something that someone just brought up. If you don't want to catch COVID, make sure you do this. It's a remedy that comes from a long time ago, before we invented electricity and gas bottles. Have cold showers twice a day. Every time you have cold showers, you will see the splashing, the COVID falling off your body. So here is my...
Joe Rogan has cold showers, brother.
I can tell you right now, mate, he's not.
COVID splashing off and the enjoyment of a war shower too.
He's a liar. And Joe can come and show me that he's doing it, all right? Then I'll believe it, okay? So Joe can come and do it, and I'll walk around my property naked for quite a while, all right? Joe Rogan is a liar. He does not have cold showers. Otherwise, he would not have had COVID. Okay?
I'd rather a warm shower and take my chances that I'm not one of the 3 people out of 1,000 who may die with COVID, not because of it.
Thank you so much for today. Talk soon. Okay?
Thanks, guys.
You are unrated, unranked. But Palache just beat you today. Talk soon.